Welcome to the Stay Ready Real Estate Podcast, your action plan for real estate success. Here, we stay ready. Staying ready is being mindful of time and actively doing the things on a daily basis so we stay prepared for the opportunities that come our way. Join your host, Emeka, as he dives into the world of real estate investing, interviewing experts and sharing actionable insights. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe today. We would love to know each and every one of you. So please go to GobannaEquity.com and click Invest with us today so we can figure out how we can get to your investing goals.
All right, my
All
man
right.
Nico. We were looking at a D class property, which we did not know at first. So I think it'd be good to talk about like the differences between D class and C class and the things to kind of prepare for and watch out for.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess D class is obviously the poverty below poverty level. I don't know if like we would consider our 44 unit. I think it's C, maybe C minus. And this one that we're looking at, it might even be C minus also. I don't know what D is aside from like a lot of drug dealing, violence, not paying rent, things like that, and drug use.
Okay, that makes sense. If I were to drive around a neighborhood for D class, for me, whenever I first got into it, I think it would have been obvious. But that might not be the case now because if like we're looking at a property in an industrial zone, and some people think it's D class, but I guess it does make sense. Like industrial warehouses could be a front, for drugs. There could be a lot of, money laundering or just I feel like most people aren't like looking into industrial zones too much. So it's like a front to move drugs, especially if it's near the airport, like the property we're looking at. It could be a lot of different things that could be going on, especially if you don't really know the area like we know Lakeland, I should say.
Yeah, who moves there, right? Who moves to these areas? And I guess it's people that are just like it's not like if you probably click on that walkable, however you get that walkable rating, it's probably not going to give much of a walkable rating. There's not much to do around there. It's not like people are going to restaurants, right? There's not many restaurants or anything around there. So I'm assuming it's just people that are going to work or people that don't have jobs and they're kind of just, just slumming around. And I don't want to say necessarily that is D class, but at least a C minus class.
Okay, yeah, we're looking at a property. It's near an airport. It's in an industrial zone. There's car warehouses everywhere. There's a car dealership right next to it. And there is restaurants. I mean, you can walk to these places. There's like a Ross. There's a lot of there's like a shopping center that's very conveniently located. But then again, who wants to be next to an airport, which the airport's not that close. I was there multiple times. It's not like I could hear the plane taking off every time, so it's not really that loud. And then, but you're next to a bunch of car dealerships. So like every time I visited the property, there was cars getting towed, and not because someone's parked illegally, just because they're moving cars that's next to it. So who, like you said, Nico, who would want to rent? And then if they do rent, like how often are they going to stay more than 1 year? So I guess
Yeah.
those are some prime questions to think about.
Well, so is this really a D class area? I don't know. I remember you pointing out and showing me those shopping centers. So it can't be a terrible area. And I want to shed some light on this, what we're looking at, because this is likely not going to be a syndication. So it's fine that we talk about it if we even get it. And we probably won't get it because I'm going to lowball so badly that nobody's going to want to sell this thing to us because basically giving it away at what I am trying to get it at. Where we ended up getting an inspection done on this property. Sorry, I'm like invisible sometimes. And you typically don't get an inspection done unless you have a deal under contract. But the purpose of getting the inspection done was just knowing how to underwrite this thing and how to underwrite or get the expenses down right, not the expenses, the capex budget. How do we nail this capex budget without knowing what we're getting into? So we did an inspection, we paid for it, right? And we walk on 100 deals and then we get one deal, right? So you're taking a risk here, we're paying some money to play, which is I feel is necessary in this game. But there is always a way to buy a property and make it work. Is it going to be worth the headache? Maybe. And we're going to really be passing this off. That's going to go to Mark, the property manager, because we're going to really press him to manage this thing right. But what we will do in this scenario, if it is D class or C minus class, we're going to underwrite for a lot of vacancy, a lot of delinquencies. We're going to put in a higher budget for legal fees. We're going to put in a higher budget for turning the units because it just happens in those types of areas. So there, if you underwrite it properly, yeah, it could absolutely be worth it.
Oh, for sure. And I guess the cool thing about it is like, yes, it's in a weird, lot next to a bunch of different warehouses, but it could be a big lot. And as the broker was telling us, what the lots are selling for per square foot, I think it was like 35,000 square. I forgot the exact numbers, but he was saying it was basically the offer that we gave him. That's what people are getting just for the land. So he basically was just like, hey, you might need to beef that up. We are competing with someone else. Someone else does have an offer. But the catch with it is we're offering this property along with other properties. So it'd be basically a portfolio. They are only offering for the subject property that we think needs a lot of work. So I mean, they would get more from us. I mean, for the owners at least, they'd basically wash their hands off with 3 deals versus having 3 separate transactions. So there is benefits going with us, but when it comes to underwriting, like you just got to think like a normal person, which is one thing I think is very cool. You're not don't think too hard. Just if you were the tenant, like, would you want to stay there? What kind of class is it bringing, and is it quite frankly worth the headache? Mark, of course, is going to be dealing with the majority of it, our property manager. But then again, like, how much can we stomach, especially right now with the uncertainty?
I know, it's tough. So I'm gonna underwrite it. So we're still waiting on that inspection report. Our partner Shane spoke with our inspector Matt Hawley today. Not enough. We need to have that actual report so that we could build a capex budget. We did not get into all the units, unfortunately, which it makes it another challenge for us. But I think we have enough ammunition. A couple of the units might be knocked down and rebuild, or some of them might be, complete
No
rebuilds.
rebuilds, no rebuilds, because if we knock it down, we won't be able to rebuild it unless we have permission from the city,
What
because
about
it's zoned
knockdown?
industrial.
Oh, well, and isn't it only zoned for 21 units at this one spot, but there's 24?
Yeah, but it's 24 units, but it's zoned for 21. So when things like that happens, we typically, if we buy it, it gets grandfathered in. So they have to honor it. But the issue is some of them may have to be knocked down unless we can, figure out, what to do because there's literally a tree growing into the plumbing. And I've never really dealt with that ever. So I don't even know what it takes. You have to like dig under the ground, and then if we're digging under the ground, is that gonna make the foundation vulnerable? So there's like little things that you gotta really think about. There was like a shed where the roof is just completely shot. Like the roof, it looks like a rug. I literally asked the broker, "Hey, is that a rug on top of there?" That's how old the shingles looked. But yeah, zoning issues, and if it gets appraised, would that would they consider it 24 units if we somehow renovate it and don't have to tear down, even though it's zone 21? Like, there's a lot of questions I have for that.
There are a lot, and you're going to be on it for all that with the city. I was thinking get rid of 3 units. If they're not fixable, why not just, and it's only zoned for 24, why not just get rid of it? I'm actually underwriting it for 21 units, and that's how I'm looking at it, just in case we got to get rid of those 3 units. So we're not able to claim income from them. I don't know. So, but there are a lot more questions to ask. We got to figure out what can be done because Shane is already thinking we might have to knock down and rebuild. And it's not like a new development because there's already utilities in place and stuff like that. So it's a little different. But if we cannot rebuild, then that's a different story.
Well, knockdown and rebuilding is a completely different underwriting process to begin with. Because now we're not working like we're still worrying about rents, but then there's a cost for demo, and then the permits, and then I know Lakeland has impact fees, but Tampa, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Tampa, so I'll just have to talk with the city and get all that information. But number one, we have to figure out a price as is because we can't underwrite what it would be. So I would say it'd be worth going through that once we see if we get a yes or no. But I mean, we only have we only have a competition of one, and I would assume that everyone's thinking the exact same questions when it comes to this property that we are.
Did I thought the guy that offered, or the group that offered, is on that 18 unit, which is in better shape. Am I wrong?
No, this is for the Hubert Ave, so the one that's possibly a tear down.
Really?
Yeah,
Maybe they're
because
in.
so originally they offered with financing, and broker said that's not gonna work here. That's not gonna work here. So I guess, and this was a couple months ago, so I guess they came back with obviously cash, and now they're considering it. So
Do you think that they're like an industrial group that are going to make this an industrial area? I don't know. Are they going to keep it multifamily? We don't know these questions.
I don't know. And the broker, of course, he didn't want to tell me all that information. I was trying to see as much as he would give and get him talking, but he's pretty savvy as well. But if they're going to finance it originally, I don't see that being a development. It'd
Hmm.
be a new construction loan because I would assume you can get a new construction loan as is because you're you're basically in a demo it and there's going to be phases. So the demolition would be phase one of the construction loan that you can probably negotiate with one of the lenders. So if they were thinking about developing, I wouldn't assume they would offer two different times.
Hmm. Yeah, probably not. All right. So at this point, we're just waiting on that report. And I'm going to wait on Shane's budget, and then I'm going to re-underwrite everything, and then I'm going to press the broker to say, look, this is where we're at and why, and nobody's going to buy this thing. So we're going to lowball, and if fine, don't take our offer now, but you might come back to us in a month.
For sure, for sure. And like I said, I mean, I think we're smart people, but I feel like there's a lot of people who've probably already seen this deal. There's probably smart people who've seen the deal. And some people probably pass just because the returns aren't there. But
Hmm.
I like we're in Florida and some people say the market's changing, this and that. Every property that we've offered for, we've had competition. There has been other buyers. So, I mean, I don't really think the market's going to affect too much, but I just think, at least from the broker's perspective, the fact that they don't have much traction and they already went under contract with somebody else and that fell through last minute. And I guess they lost, the people who were under contract, they lost a significant amount of earnest money because they couldn't close.
Oh
But
man, really?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Damn.
So that stinks. Make sure you can close before getting into a deal. But the owners, they already probably felt the stress of that. It's time consuming. It's not a day thing. It's not a week thing. It's usually a couple months thing. And for that to fall through, I'm sure they just want to get rid of the property. So I'm sure he's waiting on our offer to see if he wants to accept the other offer. But the benefit from us is, we paid for an inspection report. So he's most likely going to wait so he can at least get the inspection report because it would help him out for all future offers and the offers that he currently has. So I think when it comes from a time perspective, I think we still have time to buy it. But the talks in the trenches, man, there's just a lot that goes into it. We got to figure out the best way to make it a win-win scenario because if it's not a double win, we won't win it.
It's crazy. Do you think other people are spending all this time looking at all these deals the same way and really getting as deep as we are? I doubt it. I bet you. I mean, obviously there are some groups that are, but I bet you 90% of the people that are doing this, what we're trying to do, are just hanging out, waiting for things to change in the market, or watching deals and looking at them occasionally, but not getting as detailed like we are on all of these deals. This is a dumpster dive deal, we called it, and we paid for an inspection. That's crazy. People don't do that. We are engaging the broker. We had multiple visits there. You brought a contractor, right? I mean, people aren't doing this.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely shows validity. He was wondering who all was here. And I mean, I told him I got two inspectors, we got two contractors and an assistant. And I told him straight up, listen, we're the buyers. This is right up our alley. This is exactly what we love. It just has to make sense numbers wise because we typically do a syndication. But for this, since we have to be cash, we're gonna have to be a JV. And we're probably be in it for a good amount of time. So we just want to get it right as soon as we can, and just be honest with our numbers. We can close. We know that. We're confident in that. But work with us, and then we'll tell you exactly what we're offering. I tell every broker that I talk to in person that we will have a conversation on why we offered that. And I usually leave that in your hands, Nico. I just say you'll do it. But we we do. And then it at least shows them like we're just not coming up the numbers just randomly, right? There's a reason, there's a rhyme with it. So
Have you ever heard of like, so my gears are always turning when we're looking at deals. And this deal in particular, after speaking with a broker who sold a property basically right next door, gave me the rundown of the area, how rough it is. And he's saying, like, look, it's not going to be a appreciation. Like, people aren't going to pay much money for this down in the future, but you could, if you make a cash flow, then it's worth it, right? So typically Tampa's not a cash flow market, but I'm going to offer on this as if it was a cash flow deal. And meaning the price point's got to be really low. But so then my gears are turning. It's like, how can we lease these up if we're gonna? He's telling me we're gonna have trouble leasing it up with quality tenants. And then I'm thinking, well, what about like halfway houses? I just had a conversation with Alex Tam, who does it. They're not called halfway houses now; they're called something else, right? Like sober living or something like that. There's organizations that put together housing for people that need it, right? And maybe we can connect with one of those organizations to keep it 100% occupied and have somebody else paying the bill.
no, for sure. And that's a great thing. There's a lot of options. You just gotta find them. Find them, find local resources, find local communities who try to give back. I know like One Child, yeah, I think it's called One Child. The headquarters is here in Lakeland, and they focus on, parents who need help or single parents who need help. So it's one of those things that if we look out for options and look out, different avenues to get things rented, I think we can. It's just a matter of how fast we can, how much time we have to reach out to it, because Mark doesn't have all day to work on one property all the time. So when it comes to getting things rented, I do feel confident about not D, but C class areas, just because what from a Section 8 standpoint, a lot of people are waiting. So it's just a matter of who we want to get in there and who do we trust to take care of the property and stay in there for a long time, right? Just because the area might be bad for most people, it's not going to be bad for 100% of the people. And let's say if it was good for 10% of the people, half of that might not work. If we get a 5% of people who come in that like it, that want to pay their rents, then it's just a numbers game. Just a number game, like we do with deals, right? We offer on 200 deals before we get one deal. And it could be the same with tenants, just how much can you stomach and how much work you're willing to put into it. Kind of like our 16 units, right? We're helping on with Mark with the property management. We're doing tours ourselves. We're talking with them, trying to figure things out, and we're learning on the way, right? We're learning the people who are just talking and don't want to do too much, and we're learning the people who want to engage and move in quicker. And our availability for that, since this is our property, that's where I think something like this, a property like this, would be good for us, because then it would beef up our property management in-house and be like kind of like a stepping stone and what the future can behold, I should say.
Yeah, I love it. How far are you from the property?
For me, it's about an hour, but I don't have to take the highways. So what I do typically is, I have clients who have jobs everywhere. So any properties that we look at, typically speaking, I either have a client that has a job site near or an office. So I'm able to, kill two birds in one stone and make the most efficient use of my time. So I'm just efficient with my time. And I like to call myself an opportunist. So I'm always looking at different ways to help. So like for our broker, like I'm trying to help him out with some windows for one of his personal homes. And that goes a long way. Even if we don't get the deal, he's going to remember the one team that helped him out with his windows for that one deal, that pocket listing that comes up that doesn't on the list. He's going to reach out to me or you, is like, hey, are you interested? And I do think that little things add up over time, especially when it comes to building a relationship. Business is relationships. So I truly value that.
Cool, man. I was also going to ask you, so I was talking to Shane just before I got on with you about the CapEx and construction. Let's say we were going to be doing it, or Harley's doing it for 6 months to 8 months, or maybe even 12 months. We're going to need somebody overseeing it. And I said, well, Mark's probably closer. So Mark's going to have to be there frequently. And if he can't, then we're going to have to get somebody that is kind of like a project manager. It's not going to be forever. Um, but we would have to be very upfront with Mark or whoever's going to do it. That is not, something that we need somebody there every day for, just to make sure that things are going the way we want.
Yeah, I
So,
would, I mean, at the very least, I could be there, once a week. But since it's in Tampa, I got people working on hotels in Tampa. I'd figure out a way to make it work. I can't, there's no way I'd be doing it every day. But what's truly needed, I can definitely do. Because when it comes to that stuff, for any further property, I kind of already have a plan. Like, exactly what I need to do, how to schedule it, and things I need to look for. The best thing I use, the best way I say it is actionable items and things to take note of. So, like for our 16 unit, it's not that hard. I kind of know all the things that the inspection report needs and what to look for. But for something like this, where I'm not as close and I'm boots on the ground, so that's my that's my position. That's what I need to focus on. That's where, every time I visit, I would basically have a checklist. And the reason why I even came up with that is just because I was listening to a TED talk and it was talking about doctors and patients and why some hospitals aren't as good as others, or why some hospitals miss different diagnoses. And it was literally because they were not doing the checklist, right? What are they looking for? What do they need to check off? What do you check off? Or if you don't check off something, why isn't it checked off? Or the actual items that we need to do to check it off. So that's how I plan on working on our future deals a little bit further away, so I can continue to visit on a constant basis. Since that's my superpower, that's my value. So I got to figure out, creative ways to make that a value, especially if we have, properties an hour to 2 hours away.
man, I like it. I was thinking about just before you mentioned the airport. What if we like got airport workers to live there? I don't know. There's got to be some way. And if people feel unsafe, then we'll put up a giant fence around it, kind of make it like its own little safe haven, to make people feel safe. We'll put up cameras. We can have, I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, I think lights would work for nighttime. And like, if it just doesn't look good, if we, the do the parking lot, replace the roofs, new paint job, and a new signage, I think it'll look pretty decent. I mean, at the end of the day, the property itself is kind of secluded since there's two properties next to it that are kind of bigger. So it's in its own little cubby, and there's a sign in the front. But I mean, there's nothing that pops. It looks bland, and the cars like outside the properties around it won't necessarily help. But the reason why I'm saying that is because once drive onto the property and go in front of the units, you feel like you're in your own kind of apartment complex in your own kind of world, because of the layout, since we're in between two properties. So there's definitely options that we have there, but we just got to get creative, and then that capex budget is going to be, something to to live and die for, I should say.
So so I basically offered like $30,000 per unit, which is crazy. That's why the broker's like, hell no, because even at that, like, and then the capex budget was also $30,000 a unit or so, so it was double. So if we could get it at that price point, it does make sense as long as the capex budget would work for that. Otherwise, we're going to go even lower, which at that point is it's not even worth because the land is worth more itself.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious who's gonna, if we don't get it, like how people are going to make this work. Because I don't think the owners want to sit on the market forever. And that's what it sounds like. They just kind of wash their hands off of it. But they did say they are looking for a specific price. But I'm assuming that price is based off what the broker told them the land was selling for. So, I mean,
Mm.
if let's say I'm a person who's not into real estate and a realtor or a broker tells me I can get this price for it, in my head, that's the price that I'm shooting for. I'm not trying to go anything below or not even higher if I think I can, if this is the perfect strike price. So I'm sure there might be a little bit of that in there as well when it comes to the influence of picking someone to buy. But you just never know. Brokers are salesmen, is what I tell people, and salesmen like to sell. So we don't really know
Mm.
what the truth is.
Totally. 100%. Well, time will tell here. We'll see. Ideally, we would get it. We'd have our money and then out. That's the whole goal, and that's how I'm going to try. If it works, touring one tomorrow morning, right in Lakeland, we got like all these other deals that you're sending me. It's like, yeah, I already looked at that. I underwrote it. It's not worth it, and so we're just looking at everything, and that's how you got to stay active if you want to get something.
No, can't. No, can't get complacent, right? We always gotta act like someone's chasing our tails. And I think that's the best way to act forever because, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And if we don't look hard, somebody else will. So opportunities to be had, we just gotta, keep pushing. Keep pushing. It's tough right now.
It is, my man. All right. Did you ever? Oh, before we get out of here, did you ever see? Did you go to the webinar that Hadar held with his 25K unit
I did
property? And
not. I did not. I haven't seen it yet. I do have the recording in my email though.
ah, I got to see it, man, because that's basically what we're trying to do, and I want to see how heavy the lift is. You know,
Oh yeah, I mean it'd be exciting because I mean, in the reality of it, our handyman Harley, he would do just the interiors, drywall, flooring, fixtures, and things like that. But we would need to hire a GC when it comes to the bigger stuff,
structural stuff too. Yeah,
structural
yeah.
stuff, exactly. So when it comes to that, picking the GC, they handle most of it, and they're supposed to be the ones that are overseeing, their subs if they're subbing it out. So that kind of helps us out with the management. And that's how I assume that Hadar is doing it. But Hadar is crazy. He does everything himself across the country. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was the GC and then he was just finding the subs, which is
It could be.
probably a cheaper option and an option that we could do too. But especially with Shane's background. But that's what I'm seeing with my customers a lot, at least. So
Oh, interesting. Wait, yeah. Have you ever thought about getting a GC license? Is it? Did you have to pay money for it? I know here you
so
do.
So, like the world knows, I want to build condos eventually, and you don't need it to have a license if you're building on your own land, typically. If you're
Okay.
building for someone else, for someone else's property, you do have to have a license. But if it's my property, I can get away with it because I know like one of my colleagues' clients, like they only build in their land because they don't have a license. Because it's not easy to get your license. There's a test you gotta take, there's courses. I mean, it's essentially like another school. But if you're an owner builder, I think the rules are different. So
Gotcha. I didn't know that. So you got to buy it first, and then you're fine. You can do whatever you want.
yeah, because it's our property. So I think I would assume it has to do with liability. Because
Hmm.
if you're doing something on someone else, let's say we're building a house on someone else's property, and while they're putting the shingles on the roof, the entire thing collapses, someone dies. Who's who's responsible for the death? That's how I see it, but that's just my hunch. I have no facts to that. So
Speaking of that, I was talking to Bill Waters about the insurance for this, and if we're going to do something like huge renovations, we wouldn't get the regular insurance plan. We would get a builder's risk policy, which would just cover, people working and building on it, basically. But you can't have people living there at the same time, and that's an issue.
yeah, but the way, well, yeah, because there's gonna be, I think there's like four four or five structures. And the reason why I'm not certain because I think some is like connected like an L, and
Hmm.
I'm not sure if they're connected or not. But let's say there's four or five structures. There's gonna be at least two structures that won't have people in it.
Mm.
So assuming that they would want the people who do live in the units, assuming that they would want to live in a better spot, whenever we finish, move them into those, assuming that they can pay the rents, and then just it had to be in phases. So that's a way to kind of make sure no one is living there where we need to demo and renovate.
I think he means nobody can live on the property.
Oh,
Like
really?
it has to be vacant to have this builder's risk policy. What I'm trying to figure out is whether or not that like the hard money, it's typically a bank requires you to have insurance. Maybe the hard money doesn't require you to have insurance. I asked that, they didn't get back to me yet. And then maybe if we got it as seller finance, we could structure it into where we don't have insurance or we have a certain type of insurance that, you know what I mean, that's just protecting the workers there and the people that are there in case of injury or something.
I have no idea. But I feel
One
like we're
step at
always
a
learning
time.
something. Yeah, I feel like we're always learning something on every single deal.
Yep, every time, man. That's why we keep doing it. We're
For
learning, getting
sure, for
bigger,
sure.
growing.
So, what's our next actionable steps from here? Is it just a waiting game? Just waiting on Matt?
Yeah, so Matt had he had another inspection today, but he had a phone call with Shane. So we're waiting tonight. He should have us that full report. And then Shane's going to build out that budget. Hopefully, he can get it done tonight. I highly doubt it because who knows when he's going to get this thing, and there's a lot of work to be done. I can come up with the general number though for sure.
So I'm trying to think. Well, you think it'll actually take a over 1 million to fix it up?
I think. Well, it depends. Like for all 42 units, or just for that 24 unit.
Okay, I thought that was just for the 21 units. It's 24,
Okay,
but it's zone 21.
I have $860,000 in my capex, which is $40,000, $41,000 a door.
Mm,
Crazy.
yep, yep. I guess I mean the parking lot itself, because I don't know. Did y'all talk to Harley as well when it comes to? Okay, he hasn't he hasn't given me anything else, but he was saying that the drainage is not good. Like where the water is draining, there's a middle building where literally like half of it could just sink.
Oh my God, that's
So
terrible.
yeah, because I mean it's just muddy. Yeah, there's a lot of issues. And I think the owner just wasn't taking care of it, quite frankly. And then when he passed away, I don't think anyone was gonna step in and, catch up with the mess. Cause I mean, we're budgeting 800,000. So you can imagine what someone would do whenever they see that cost. So
Yeah, a lot of deferred maintenance, but yeah, so no bank is going to look at this thing. So we got to look at it with hard money, cash, private money, or seller finance.
I wonder what's the best way to make us the go-to people that he wanted to go into contract for. Because I mean, of course, everyone's gonna say price. Everyone's gonna say price. Pricing will always be the number one cause in everyone's head, but that's just not the real case. Like, what kind of terms would make it more pleasurable than someone who has a higher offer than us?
A lot of things you could do more money down. You can do like if it's seller finance, you could have the balloon end in a year or 2 years instead of 5 years. But if it doesn't come down to price, then like let's say it is price. Let's say they take somebody that's got a higher offer than us, because that's probably what would happen until they can't close again, right? If somebody else comes in and can't close again, and then they're very frustrated with it, and they're probably going to let it go. They might let it go now. They might be at that point where they're just so frustrated and don't want to deal with it anymore. But we don't know that yet. I think it's that. I think it's how eager are they to just let it go?
For sure, for sure. I mean, they're not taking care of the property. I mean, they still have to pay property taxes. If they're sitting on a lot of cash, that might not really mean much for them. But I don't know about, I mean, no matter how much money you have, though, usually people are savvy with their money and they don't want to just pay that, especially if they're not making income. Like I walked there and one of the first tenants was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna pay that rent. Let me get to that, I swear, today or like next day.
Oh God.
Obviously they're probably not paying on time or if not paying at all.
Mm-hmm.
Someone yelled someone yelled at us, rightfully so, because she said that she fell a couple of times and she wanted us to do something with it. I'm like, ma'am, I am just visiting.
Oh
But
my God.
that could be another one who's not she could probably be holding on the rents until something's fixed. And that's not necessarily uncommon. So I might have the rent roll over here actually. One second. We got about 4 minutes. So it says, and they're not renewing leases either.
Okay.
So get this, one of them is a studio, has $191 deposit, and their rent is 600. So
Oh boy.
there's 11 vacants. So the gross rent right now is 8,800.
That's crazy.
So they're saying that the expenses of all of last year was $37,000. I don't know about that.
Definitely
I
not.
don't. There's
Unless they're
no
not
way.
unless they're not touching anything. And yeah, they have 11 vacant, meaning they're not using any utilities and they're not fixing anything. And they're probably not paying the insurance or the taxes. It's impossible.
The highest rent is $700. That's insane. I haven't seen that rent since we first took over our 16 units. So
That's crazy. That's
water
crazy.
and sewer 18,000. Property taxes is 10,000. Electric is 6,000. The dumpster is 12,000. This is annually for 2023. And they don't have insurance. Well, I'm surprised they don't. Like, wouldn't they have insurance to get it and then just hold it or like renew it? Do people come out often when it comes to that?
Well,
Like the
so
insurance companies.
I don't know what kind of, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they check out things all the time, but it's so strange. Do they really have insurance? I mean, what type of insurance do they have? Maybe they just have like a general liability insurance and they don't have like the main policy, the umbrella policy or the wind mitigation, the wind insurance. They might have the bare minimum to where nobody's even looking at this property.
Oh, for sure. And then get this. So there's 2 units where it says one of them is paying $700 a month with a $500 deposit. It says a 20-year tenant and it says like untouchable.
Yeah, what the heck is that? I saw that.
I don't know what that means.
Uh,
That's very interesting.
that's
But this should be a good one. Like I said, I'm excited if we were to like if we get it at the price that we want, I think there's huge upside. But if not, like, we always gotta move on. So
yeah,
never get too emotional, audience. Never do, or else you're gonna bite yourself in the butt.
that's the truth, my man. Well, been amazing talking to you like always. We chat all day. Now I'm glad people get to hear what we talk about.
Yes, sir. Until next time, probably next week. We'll see you later.
All right, my man. See you later.